Hello, I am Nate Richard. I am here with Academy Award nominee Tod Maitland. He is currently nominated for A Complete Unknown, which marks his 6th Academy Award nomination. How are we doing today?
We're doing great. Very good, thanks.
So we are going to play over some clips, and we'll be breaking down how you did it.
But shone that house in New Orleans, they call the rising sun.
The reason I chose that clip is because it shows a lot of the different textures of sound that we went after. So when she pushes that microphone away, so you hear her through the PA system and singing normally as she would be in a club, and then she pushes the microphone away and goes a cappella. So now you hear a totally different sound with her.
I'm going back.
And then after she exits, the crowd applauds. And then the MC goes out. He again is back over the amplified system again. And then you have that little piece of dialogue with Pete, Joan, and Bob.
Thanks, Pete.
Hey, this is my friend Bob.
Oh.
Nice work.
And all of that is recorded as a normal film sound would be. That's the sound that we're used to hearing on a film. So the idea was to create all these different layers of sound within each one of these moments. And that one was a good example for that.
Here's a new one.
What I really like about that piece are two things. One is it's one of the 3 or 4 times that you see New York. It's probably the quieter moment, but with moments of harried panic in it. It's that moment where people don't know if they're going to live the next day or not. And Bob decides the way he's going to deal with it is go play in this club. So as Joan comes out, we added it again, as much sound to the street as possible. And right before that scene, we added Walter Cronkite, we added sirens, we added all these other components to it just to help build that energy. Where normally on set, you would never do that. But again, Jim's real goal was to just create as this thing as real as possible. And then as you approach the gaslight, you start to hear Bob playing. So we play that in full perspective from outside. And then we have a microphone coming down the stairs just to get that entry feeling of going through that cavernous hallway. This is one of the scenes where there isn't a practical microphone. So early on during rehearsals, I was watching the way Timmy was playing, and he holds the guitar very similar to the way that Bob held the guitar. That would block any lavalier microphone, because normally you put a lavalier microphone on the breastplate right here. So I talked to Timmy early on and said, the only way I'm going to be able to do this is to mic you in your hair. And he was like, are you serious? And I'm like, yes. And then I had to finesse that with the hair department. And I think 14 times we went to that hair mic to do it, and it worked brilliantly. In what I do, microphone placement is really one of the most important things you can possibly do. I teach at NYU, and I always tell my students that you can have the best equipment in the world, but if the microphone's in the wrong place, it's going to sound like crap. If you have mediocre equipment and the microphone's in a good place, you're going to have a decent recording.
God said to Abraham, kill me a son. Abe said, man, you must be putting me on. God said, no. Abe said, what? God said you could do what you want, Abe, but
We built that studio from the ground up. It was a stage. Francois, our production designer, and Regina did an amazing job putting it together. And Michael, our prop person, they just found all of his old equipment. And then we interfaced it and made everything work that needed to work, having communication between the control room and the live room.
Highway 61, take 7. No, you can't look at me like that.
Having everything in the live room wired, every instrument, everything except for the drums. The drums we muted. We probably had 20 microphones going, for this one scene. Because you have the people talking in the control room. You have all the microphones in the studio. You have ambient mics. You have the talkback microphones so they communicate to each other.
You mentioned you worked on other music-based movies before, and this is a scene that we often see in these music movies is the recording studio. So how would you normally do that?
So normally you would always have a playback track, which is a pre-record. So that means you go into the studio well before you start filming the movie. You lay down all the instrument tracks, you lay down all the vocal tracks, and then when we get on set, we have a playback person there. And if you're going to record live vocals, you'll never do live instruments, and you'll give all of the actors earpieces so that you don't want them playing, but you want them obviously totally in sync with the track. What it allows you in post-production is to be able to either go with the live track that I recorded on set, or you can go to the playback track because they're singing right along with the playback track. So they're technically totally in sync with the track. And if you do any big dance numbers, like any of the big musicals that you see, they may do live stuff, but they'll always go back to the vocal pre-records for the movie when they're doing any big dance kind of number.
I'm not the one you want, babe.
I'm not the one you need.
Before we start, I do want to ask now, because I'm just looking for the hair mic. Did you use that?
No hair mic there. Anytime that they're in front of microphones like that, that's where you have the microphone, the vocal guitar mic, you have speakers out to the audience, you have monitor speakers back to Joan and Bob, and then multiple audience microphones out, recording the audience out there, because the audience really does become a big character in the movie. And one of the things on this one is working with the actors to get them in the right proximity to the microphone. So when you have two actors on one microphone, you have no way to balance them out. Obviously, if each one of them are on their own microphones, I can work the levels and balance them out. But now when you have two actors on one microphone, you need to figure out exactly where they should physically be in relation to that microphone. And Bob has a much more powerful voice than Joan.
Someone to open each and every door.
If they were equal distant, you would hear mainly just Bob. So we played with their distances to find really what worked perfectly to be able to get a really good duet performance. But I had gone back and looked at the original Dylan and Joan singing that song at Newport, and they're both the same distance from the microphone, and you mainly just hear Bob. It's very hard to hear Joan during that piece. So we obviously wanted more of a balance between the two of them. So we played with that physical proximity to the microphones.
Was any of these, because obviously working on this movie, it sounds like it was very challenging, but it's also rewarding. Were any of these scenes, are there any other scenes that we didn't just watch that you're really most proud of that you've worked on?
Yeah, good question. So when you see the movie Newport 65, the night scene, when it starts off with the Texas gang chopping and goes all the way through until Bob walks off stage after singing Baby Blue, we shot that as one continuous scene. And again, Jim's goal was to create a live environment feel. So we had 3 cameras out in the audience, and we started rolling before the Texas gang came out. And it was one 23-minute take where we had everything going on. So when you see the film during that whole time period, you have all the people that are like Pete Seeger and everyone else who's part of the Newport group, and they're getting so upset the fact that Bob's going electric that they go try to stop it and all of that. So that all happened on this one giant take. So I have every actor on stage wired. I have obviously the whole stage wired. I have the audience mic'd. I have the speakers mic'd, guitar, everything else. And I think that's where I had 40 microphones out on that. And we just ran the entire scene from beginning to end as if it were a full concert. That's where, I think I used everything I've learned in my 45 years on this movie, more so than probably any other movie. And I think one of the things that we were able to do is really, make sound a character in this movie, which is really a great goal, and it doesn't happen often.
It was an absolute pleasure talking to you about A Complete Unknown, a movie that I believe is still in theaters right now. Now it's going on demand in a couple weeks, but just again, congratulations on the Academy Award nomination. I am rooting for you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm happier about this one, especially for me, because on my end of it, so it was so much more detailed than I think any other film that I've done. So very proud of it.